Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is, and welcome back to Watching the Watchers. We've got a bunch of business to attend to today. Quick preview, then we'll zoom in and explore in further detail. But we got a lot of activity in Congress, and they're all stepping over each other to try to show how much they care about Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. We're wondering where the heck they've been all these years. All of a sudden, it's like clown cars crashing into this thing. No, I care about the Epstein. No, I care. No, I'm going to release it. No, my resolution. It's been nonstop all day back and forth. And we're actually in favor of that because we want to see some actual stuff come out of on this. And maybe if there's bipartisan unity on it, we'll get them. But we all know what happens when there's bipartisan unity. Usually not good for us. So we got this subpoena that has now come out from Comer. So we're going to do a little bit of a roundup on what happened in Congress today because a lot went down. You can see. We'll go through the subpoena. We also had Mark Wayne Mullen, who is out with a new resolution that he submitted, and apparently the Democrats rejected his resolution. They say, we want our resolution, and the Republicans say no, and they say, you don't want the Epstein files to come out, and they say, no, you, and it's been nonstop. So we'll go through this. We got Mark Wayne Mullen, Oversight Committee. We've got Scott Perry, you know who he is. He's sending letters out there, and a bunch of stuff. We've also got Tim Burchett, and clips from a bunch of Congress people, because it is just the fervor over there on Capitol Hill. They got a fever, and it's Epstein. They can't get enough. We got Chip Roy and a bunch of others. Ron Wyden was out, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and of course, Todd Blanche was supposed to be meeting with Ghislaine today. It was reported that he was. We were waiting to see if we'd have an update from Todd to see what Todd did and whether there is a record or a transcript of the meeting. I doubt it. Well, we'll see. We got some other clips and reaction, and of course, we'll hear from James Comer. So we'll get the roundup there. Now, then we'll zoom into some legal stuff because Ghislaine did have a decision on a Court of Appeals ruling. This one came down from the Second Circuit, and it does involve records. Now, this was in the case of Gouveia, Virginia, rest in peace, no longer with us. People have questions about that. Julie Brown and the Miami Herald were suing Ghislaine, and they wanted to unseal a bunch of these records. Well, it went up to the Second Circuit, and they came down. I would call it a Ghislaine win. I think that Ghislaine, in this case, as we'll see, wants to hold those records, wants to keep them under seal. The judges get a little bit clever on it, and so we'll parse through what's going on with that, because the media wants to get these records as well. And just simultaneously with all of the other stuff, this was actually originally submitted back in April, and they just decided it yesterday on the 23rd. So we'll go through that. We'll also see what Kash Patel is up to, because he made a video. Look at Kash. Looking good there, Kash. You look like a director of an FBI. So we'll see if he sounds like one in his announcement on what they've done, and go through it. And then you can judge for yourselves, and we'll also pass judgment. Now, we'll come back on that. Then we'll talk about Obama, because what we're going to see is that some of these Obama administration officials, you might call them the coup-sters, or the seditious conspirators, or the traitors, but what is happening with them is they're now lawyering up, all right? This is DNI James Clapper, one of the dudes who was in the room, one of the dudes who said that per the president's order, actually he told his assistant to send that email because he didn't want to send it. He was out with CNN, and he sounded a little bit nervous out there. So we'll go through this. We've got Lindsey Graham, Senators John Cornyn. They're calling for a special counsel, and reaction from some people in the Senate and the House, including Byron Donalds, and this very nervous representative called Jim Himes, who's now saying people are going to die because of these allegations. And somehow it seems like they forgot about January 6th and all the things. Now, Ron Klain was over there on the Capitol today testifying, and apparently he was talking. That was the chief of staff was talking, and he left a little bit early. So maybe he'll just say, no, well, I was there while I was there. All of the other things happened after I left. We'll see. And so he was there testifying today. We got Ted Cruz, who says, don't get your hopes up about treason for Obama. And we'll see. So we got that. Then I wanted to hit this 14th Amendment birthright citizenship case. We won't spend a lot of time on it because this decision is such an embarrassment. were just obliterated in the first, I don't know, couple paragraphs. It's actually pretty shameful what you're going to see here. And I'll just highlight it real quickly. But if you'll notice, they're not even citing the Constitution appropriately. They call themselves Court of Appeals judges. They should be embarrassed. All persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, period. Is that what the Constitution says? Answer, no, it doesn't, okay? We're going to look at the actual written document and ask ourselves why the judges are forgetting very important punctuation, putting periods where they don't exist, and forgetting about commas that make subject to the jurisdiction thereof a very important separate phrase that they're just ignoring. So we'll go through that. We'll look at Wong Kim Ark again. Because these judges are just, I don't know, I mean, they're malicious or they're malicious, I think. So we've got a bunch of stuff to get to today, my friends. It's a beautiful Thursday. I hope your week has been outstanding and you're accomplishing all the things you set your mind to. We had a great members only stream this morning. If you're a membo, thank you for being a membo. Membos help support the work that we do here. Very grateful for our membos. We have an awesome community. We'd love to have you come join us. We deliver for our membos. We do streams in the morning. We do streams on Saturdays. And the real reason is the people. We have the best people. Come join us. Come say hello. Become a member. Support our work. Thank you for doing that. It is at watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you want to join on Locals or just join on YouTube. We're doing after parties on YouTube now too. And so we'll see you in the after party today after the show. Thanks for becoming a membo and bringing in the membos. We love the membos. Thank you for that. And thanks for being here. And thanks for subscribing and liking this video. Now, let's get into the business on the day because it has been wild in Congress. The Epstein-Maxwell floodgates opening all across Congress. This is a bipartisan uprising. Suddenly all of these politicians care about trafficking of kids and suddenly want answers about Epstein and Maxwell. We're all scratching our heads like, where the hell they been for the last however many decades have they ignored this and let it go by the wayside without really any real accountability? And we covered the Ghislaine Maxwell case at length here, reading from Inner City Press reporting all the details of the trial. And then Maureen Comey just came in, wrapped that up. Epstein killed himself, and they wrapped that up. And all of it got disappeared. But now all of a sudden, like clowns in clown cars are all coming crashing in, and they want answers. So we'll see if we get them and if they can produce anything meaningful. Because we know how they get their records. They just get something from John Brennan, the former CIA director, and they're like, well, this looks reasonable to us. They ask no questions. Everything is concealed in hidden appendices. And they come to the American people and talk like they have authority. It's ridiculous. So James Comer is explaining, now we have subpoenas. Ghislaine Maxwell now getting hit with a subpoena by the authority of the House of Representatives and the Congress of the United States. To Ghislaine Maxwell, you are hereby commanded to be and appear before the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform and produce things. But they don't check that box. They actually want her to testify at a deposition on August 11th at the Federal Correctional Institution in Tallahassee, where we think she was today with Todd Blanche from the Trump DOJ. Time, 10 a.m. for a deposition. And this has been authorized by James Comer from the House of Representatives. So she'll be coming in soon. That is not long from now. And she's got nowhere else to be. Okay, so she'll be there. So we got, Comer said, I have issued the subpoena to Ghislaine. August 11th, the DOJ is cooperating and will help facilitate the deposition at the prison. So now Pam Bondi is going to facilitate this, which is curious because they said that they've already investigated it and it's done. So maybe it's not exactly done, is it? All right. So now Mark Wayne Mullen in the Senate on the other side, right? Congress been going wild, says, here's my new resolution from Mark Wayne Mullen. Now, all credible information on the Epstein case must be made public so that the American people can decide what happened here. Now, this is Mark Wayne Mullen. He's a Republican. He's out of Oklahoma. We hear a lot from him. And he says, all credible information must be out. The Dems political football resolution tells the FBI and the DOJ how to do their jobs. And so we're moving forward towards justice and maximum transparency. So Mark Wayne submitted this one. His resolution, which I think is going to be was rejected. We'll come back to him. But he says, here's what the idea was. In the Senate, okay, so both houses are going hog wild on this. We got Ghislaine coming in for a depo. We've got the DOJ in the executive branch filing motions to unseal. So a lot of activity here on this. Now, here's what the resolution says in the Senate. Calling on federal and state courts to provide full transparency All right. Do they have any authority as the legislative branch to force the courts to do anything in a resolution? Do they need to pass legislation? Can that legislation be retroactive? What's going on? Let's see. They say, okay, so Jeffrey Epstein pled guilty to charges of soliciting a child for underage intercourse and soliciting another one in Florida in 2008. He got the smoking sweetheart deal. Those were state level charges. He never got a 60-count federal indictment like was rumored to exist under that prosecutor Acosta, who was going to bring that, and then didn't because he got negotiated. And by the way, Epstein's people apparently were tailing FBI agents and federal authorities at that time. Whereas in 2008, Mark Wayne Mullen says, following a lengthy federal investigation, Mr. Epstein secured a federal non-prosecution agreement from Acosta. Whereas Epstein was arrested also again on July 6, 2019 by federal authorities, accused of exploiting and abusing dozens of underage girls as young as 14 by enticing them to engage in acts with him in exchange, as we'll see, for money. And he was charged with trafficking of minors and conspiracy to engage in trafficking of minors. And it was the weirdest conspiracy ever. It was super tiny. It was just Epstein and Ghislaine, the only conspiracy that existed. Now, of course, the indictment mentioned a bunch of other people, like employees and other, pilots. And there's a bunch of other people you could say were a part of the operation who just went and swept these young gals up for him. But none of that got investigated. And all of the people who sued and were saying they got abused, many of them were not included in these criminal charges, especially back in the original case in 2007 and 8 when he took the plea deal. Now in 2019, we never got discovery, or never got to really flesh out the true allegations or the extent of this because Jeffrey Epstein was dead a month later. Now, the chief medical examiner of New York City said that the death of Epstein was a suicide, is what the chief medical examiner of New York said. On June 28th, Ghislaine was sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiring with Epstein to abuse minors. Whereas the circumstances also surrounding the life of Epstein and the death of Epstein while in federal custody have sparked a firestorm of public interest. And it's not just interest, okay? It's concern that we have this group of individuals within our government who are protecting a renowned pedophile and the people who are using his services. That's the problem. And whether there's a double standard of justice that exists and whether our own government is paying for and enabling this. Whereas the DOJ has noted much of the material related to Mr. Epstein is subject to court-ordered sealing. Yeah, much of it might be, but much of it is not, okay? We know, we've talked about this before, it's like a Venn diagram, right? There is one little tiny little circle here that is grand jury material. The much bigger circle, which envelops all of that, is the prosecutor's case file, okay? Now, they're only going to use a subset of that entire case file to go and present to the grand jury, which, this is weird hand motions right now. But you get the point. And this is strange. So in the grand jury proceeding, it's a few facts that are relevant. We want to unseal that, sure. But the DOJ has possession of this entire bubble of material, and they can release it all with the stroke of a pen. As long as it's not subject to some other court order that says you can't release these things, right? And I'm sure there is some, so you could even draw a dotted line in there. Some of that in the case file would be protected and not disclosable, but another huge portion of it would be. So here, the DOJ is just trying to unseal a tiny subset of this, whereas the public interest in the materials relating to Mr. Epstein that are sealed by a court order greatly outweighs any privacy interests, okay? So we need to know what happened, and Epstein is dead, all right? So he doesn't have any privacy interest anymore, including those of the deceased Epstein and his associate Maxwell. And so therefore, be it resolved, Mark Wayne Mullen says, that the Senate calls upon federal and state courts to immediately unseal all materials. Okay, you're just calling upon them, is all right. Including grand jury materials, sealed as part of any resolution or any criminal investigation, proceeding or prosecution by Epstein or Maxwell, subject to only continuing redactions to protect victims and prosecutions. We support full transparency and public access to this material. And it's like the federal, the legislative branch can't order the federal courts to do something. You have to unseal all of this. The court says, well, our rules say this, and your statutes that you pass say that, and the law says different things accordingly. And so that's the memo, that's the resolution that got submitted. And Mark Wayne Mullen, I believe, is saying that the Democrats rejected that, saying, yeah, just a little bit ago, I just asked for unanimous consent to pass that resolution, calling for full transparency and available files to be released. But Senate Democrats objected on the floor. Pathetic. Total liberal theater, liberal political theater, says Mark Wayne Mullen. And it's not anything that the Democrats are really serious about. They just want their resolution, which is their political football, to be the resolution that moves forward. And so Mark Wayne Mullen was out there with that. Now, Scott Perry also came down. Representative Scott Perry posted this. He says, what does Ghislaine Maxwell know? He says, I guess we're going to find out. She's going to come in and testify. We saw that Comer issued a subpoena. Here's what William Marshall over at the Federal Bureau of Prisons got from another representative, Scott Perry, member of Congress from Pennsylvania. He said, here, Director Marshall, you run the prison. Now, in light on our decision to subpoena Ghislaine to testify before Congress in the coming weeks about her connection to Epstein, I urge immediate action to ensure her safety. Let's make sure that the video cameras work out there, can we? And that the guards don't fall asleep. I urge immediate action to ensure her safety. Now, as you know, Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence at the Tallahassee Federal Correctional Institution. Given her direct involvement in Epstein's trafficking, it is critical that she testify under oath, given recent public interest and concerns in this case. Now, her testimony to Congress is invaluable in shedding light on a highly publicized and extremely sensitive case, and as such, I request that she be placed immediately into protective custody with the Special Housing Unit and continuously monitored immediately. Given the abrupt and unexpected demise of the lead suspect in this ring, Mr. Epstein, in 2019, while in federal custody, we must take every precaution to ensure Miss Maxwell is available to provide testimony. Our justice system must not once again fail the countless survivors of Mr. Epstein. And so I implore you to take swift and immediate action in protecting Miss Maxwell so that she doesn't kill herself. Given the atmosphere of a minimum security prison, Miss Maxwell must be isolated from fellow inmates, protected by facility guards, and be closely surveilled by guards and working video surveillance continuously for signs of distress until she has testified before Congress in August. I appreciate your time and attention to this matter. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know. And so this is a bipartisan effort. You can see House Republicans are backing the subpoena, and we saw that go through. Comer issued it. Rep. Summer Lee also is behind it. She represents the Democrats, and she says that they are also passing her motion. And now the Oversight Committee can run with it, so the Democrats are on board. And Ron Filipkowski, who's a big lib, posted this over about Tim Burchett, where we're having this conversation about the meeting with Todd Blanche and Ghislaine today. What is the purpose of the meeting? So we're asking about the new evidence that might come out as a result of this. And Todd Blanche sat down with her, and we haven't seen any updates from him today, but we saw this story over from the Telegraph. And Alan Dershowitz, you know him, he's on YouTube and Rumble and all the places. And he is being reported to have been saying that Maxwell's going to try to make a deal. And we saw that a couple days ago when we were reading through Maxwell attorney and her statement, where that lawyer was saying she's going to tell the truth to the president and we're grateful for the opportunity. And it sounded like just a lot of like, we love President Trump type stuff. You go, oh gosh, they're going to go for a pardon. And Dershowitz is now saying the same, saying it's certain an agreement will be made. And claims from Alan Dershowitz, who was Epstein's lawyer, that she knows everything. Writing in this piece from Susie Cohn, says Maxwell's going to attempt to make a deal, said Alan Dershowitz. Todd Blanche announced he's going to meet with her. He did that today. Dershowitz said she's going to make a deal. That's the way things are done. They make deals with the mafia, so I'm sure they're going to make a deal with her. What's the deal going to be? Trump continues to battle this challenge. It probably is the biggest of his presidency, which is a wild situation because it's essentially self-inflicted. But the political storm is something of a gift to Maxwell's lawyers, who are now attempting to lean on Mr. Trump during this. Dershowitz, who previously called Maxwell the Rosetta Stone of Epstein, said she knows everything, not just the perpetrators, but the victims. She knows about the victims who became the perpetrators and more. Maxwell has two potential avenues for having her sentence reduced. Rule 35 motion reduced, but could also have it granted by a judge. Trump has not been implicated. Former federal prosecutors have flipped mafia bosses before. And here's the battle, right? It's if she does something, like if she comes out and exonerates Trump and then Trump grants her a pardon, then what I think that is going to look like is like Trump is guilty, even if she exonerates Trump and then gets a pardon, right? Everyone go, oh, well, she just said what he wanted him to do so that she could get a pardon. Now she got the pardon and Trump feels exonerated, and everybody would then look at that like, oh, so you're guilty then. Even if it's not true, which I think is the trap that is being set right now. It would seem unless she exonerates Trump, she's not going to get a quid pro quo. He's not going to give to her a pardon or agree to have the DOJ give her a lesser sentence. But if she does exonerate Trump, she's also going to have to cooperate in other cases, but no one's going to believe her testimony, right? That's the other thing too. So if you exonerate Ghislaine, if she comes out and exonerates Trump, right? And what else is Trump going to get, or the US government going to get in exchange for that? And the idea would be she would spill the guts on everybody else and you get a whole slew of additional indictments. And that would be an even exchange, because if you don't get that, then now you've got Epstein, who's supposedly dead, killed himself allegedly. And then we also have Ghislaine, who gets a pardon or gets a lesser deal or a commuted sentence at the end of the term or something like that. And so now everybody for this whole thing get related to this thing is basically resolved. Mr. McDonald, who secured the release of a mob boss, we'll see. And any prosecutor could be doing it, but they're meeting today, and we'll see if there's a transcript or what gets released on it and whether there's anything substantive there. But here is what Tim Burchett had to say about this too.
The government has said in its filings that they don't trust her. She's a liar.
No, she is a liar, and she's a dirtbag. And,
So then why subpoena her if you can't trust her?
Well, because the one thing we got holding over her head is if we find out she lies, she goes back to her original sentence. And that's looking at lifetime. And if she's looking at maybe parlaying this into reducing her sentence, then we could have some leverage there.
Okay, so right, there's going to be a deal. There's going to be some sort of attempt by her to maybe get a lower sentence. What is Trump? What are the American people going to get in exchange for that if that does come down out of this? Now, we also saw Clay Higgins and others are saying, man, there's something going on here in Congress. I've never, he says, handled a subpoena like this. And this is what CNN was reporting.
I just think it's important that the American people know what's occurred here.
The president wants to move on, though. He says it's time to move on.
I have been very clear on my opinion on this issue for a long time.
Okay. Are your constituents clamoring for this information?
Some are, yeah.
I've never handled a subpoena like this. You understand? This is some fascinating stuff, and it has to be handled legally and ethically within the parameters of our rules. So I don't profess to know what all those details are, including the timing, but I assure you that we'll be working together in a bipartisan manner to make certain that that every word is perfect and reflective of what our agreements were today.
All right, so that's a couple excerpts in Congress, and there was more. Our friend Amuse was also pointing this out, and this was an interesting take too, right? There's so many layers to this. This case is so old and has been touched by so many cooks in the kitchen. Amuse, our friend over there at Amuse, make sure you give him a follow. Good dude, great reporting, says, there is a pretty good chance that the reason Trump's name is in the Epstein files, the DOJ files at all, is the fact that he was the original Epstein whistleblower in 2005, right? Saying author Michael Wolff, in a separate account, revealed that Epstein discovered it was Trump who blew the whistle on him back in 2005, before all this started to get real bad for him in 7 and 8 when he got indicted, or when he was charged by the state level crimes. He was not indicted. As a result, Epstein reportedly lived in fear, and our friend Amuse is taking this excerpt saying, but Wolff alleged Epstein came to believe that it was Trump who had first caused him to be investigated by law enforcement in Florida. Asked by Truman if Trump knew Epstein was hanging out with underage girls, Wolff said, Trump was certainly kind of in and out of Epstein's house and world, so I think knew something about that and then blew the whistle on him. And so maybe that's why he's in there. And so maybe that's why Trump wants to move on. But it is now under the scrutiny of Congress. We also see that CNN is saying that Trump is just not really entertaining it at all. CNN wrote this article. They said, wow, in 1993, Epstein attended Trump's wedding, and here's some photos of that. And of course, that's way before any of the real criminal allegations came down the pike. And Epstein has been around forever. And so there's photos of it. They called Trump to ask about it. Said in a brief call with CNN on Tuesday, Donald Trump asked, this is being reported by Spiro's Ghost, responded, apparently, you've got to be kidding me, to CNN when they called him, repeatedly calling CNN fake news and then hanging up. So that's probably from the article. And so Trump is just not entertaining it at all. Here was more from Chip Roy outside the Capitol building.
I think the administration will put more stuff out in August. And like I said, if they don't, then I promise you there's going to be some more looking at this in the first week of September.
I mean, you'd have to have your head in the sand to say that this is going to go away. It's not. The public deserves it.
I assure you that we'll be working together in a bipartisan manner to make certain that that every word is perfect and reflective of what our agreements were today.
Now, we're happy that we're seeing a lot of activity on this, but where have they been? Like, why are they all so animated all of a sudden? They were like giddy. You never see them this giddy. Oh no, we're not letting go of this thing. You go, what? You just found out about it and didn't do anything in response over the last 4 years. All of you were just mum, like bumps on a log. Now, Ron Wyden was out. He says, in light of what was happening, I'm handing a Trump DOJ ready-made case with 7 different lines of investigation for them to follow the money on Jeffrey Epstein. And we never even got the money, right? We never even saw really any criminal investigation or allegation surrounding it at all. Now, Manu was still out there. I mean, he got a lot of clips today, and he even asked Marjorie Taylor Greene about it. And here's what she said.
I really like President Trump. I also think he has a great pulse on things, but on this issue, the American people really want to see transparency. It's become one of those basically fractures that is too big to ignore.
Yeah, I just support it because I think there's too much conspiracy theory and it's just better to put light on it.
And it's bipartisan through and through. Everybody wants it out. They never do anything bipartisan, ever, except spend money. And every time they spend money, we all get screwed. Remember, it's always like, we need this for COVID or we're going to die. Like, oh, do we? Okay, fine. And then we see what happens in hindsight. Now, Trump is still posting this. He posted this a couple days ago. He said, we had the greatest 6 months of any president in history. And all the fake news wants to talk about is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, is what he called it 2 days ago in his latest statement. Now, we've got Blumenthal from Connecticut. You know what he sounds like. He's talking about it. We don't actually need to listen to him. But we're waiting on Todd Blanche. We're waiting on some updates. Ro Khanna is also talking about this. But really, James Comer, who is the person who issued the subpoena and he was driving the bus on the Oversight Committee, was asked about this via C-SPAN. And here's what he says as this fervor and Epstein frenzy continues to take over Congress.
August 11th is the date when we hope to depose Maxwell in that prison facility in Tallahassee. The others that happened yesterday, we're going to move quickly on that. All the names that were mentioned are names that have been mentioned in the past with respect to the Epstein saga. So I'm surprised that the Democrats went along with subpoenaing Bill and Hillary Clinton and others that have been involved in that. I think we all know that Maxwell was at the wedding of Chelsea Clinton. So certainly they had a relationship with Maxwell. I don't know what that relationship was. I never thought that we would be questioning the Clintons and others on with respect to the Epstein files, but the Democrats voted in a bipartisan manner yesterday to do that. So what I've told people all week, the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee have been very interested in this Epstein ordeal.
Yeah, and on that, the Oversight Committee did explain that that subpoena is much broader than just Ghislaine. Here's what they said. Chairman Comer, I commend Representative Garcia for being bipartisan in one of his first official acts as ranking member of the Democrats. Now voting to subpoena Bill and Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, Robert Mueller, William Barr, Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions, and Alberto Gonzales. The Oversight Committee is preparing the subpoenas for these individuals and the Epstein files and will issue them in the near future. So, golly. Oversight Dems are even posting that. The American people have waited long enough. These are the Democrats writing. This is the Democrats, folks. Democrats. Says, the American people have waited long enough for the Epstein files. Today, ranking member is requesting that the Chair Comer sign and deliver the subpoena for the Epstein files, which Oversight Dems won in yesterday's subcommittee hearing. And apparently, it's going to a bunch of Democrats. Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, Bill and Hillary Clinton. James Comey is getting a subpoena on this. Robert Mueller, Bill Barr. Good Lord, that's a lot. So that sounds like good information that we want to get and review, and we're excited about that. So shout out to Comer on that. Now he continues.
For weeks now, and I told Mike Johnson that our members wanted to pursue that. So it's not like there was any cover up from the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee, because our guys really want to know. But today we're here to talk about Ron Klain and the Autopin scandal.
All right, so we'll come back on that in the next or following segments, but as it stands right now, Ghislaine is going to be coming in for testimony for a deposition on August 11th. We've got Congress like maniac, like piranhas in a pond, just going wild over the Epstein-Ghislaine-Maxwell meet. And it might just be as simple as it's something for them to talk about and do and sound like they're doing something, you know, we're fighting for these records. Okay, can you do anything for like the American people in terms of the economy or, you know, anything? The border, these foreign wars or anything. It's like, no, Epstein. We care about Epstein. It doesn't feel genuine. We're happy they're talking the talk, but they've never walked the walk before. So we're happy to see him come aboard lately and demand some accountability from the intelligence agencies. And it's a weird thing happening where there's all this momentum brewing up. But in the name of transparency and accountability, we do want access to the records. And so hopefully they deliver and they're not just blowing smoke and talking, because they're getting criticized for failing at basically everything else. We'll see what happens and keep our eye on this one. Now, let's turn our attention to some legal case law that has been now set by the Second Circuit Court of Appeals in the Ghislaine-Maxwell case. Big decision in a Ghislaine-Maxwell appeal. This one coming out of the Second Circuit in the case of Virginia Gouveia and the Miami Herald media. So this is about access to records because the media wants to get their hands on them, including this reporter called Julie Brown. And it's in a lawsuit against Ghislaine-Maxwell, who's currently in federal custody, met with the DOJ Todd Blanche today, and is scheduled for a congressional deposition in August. So this just happened to get decided on July 23rd in the middle of all of this. But this was already submitted, and of course the appeal and the case and all of it was going on way before we got here. But it just happened to come out recently, and it is about records. And Ghislaine kind of edges out a victory in this one. Now, there's an interesting juxtaposition with this case. In this, we're going to see Ghislaine is fighting to keep these records sealed. That's her position in this litigation. So would that change? Why would that suddenly change and she would start talking about all sorts of things? Well, the obvious explanation is because she can get a deal, right? In this case, there's nobody who can give her a pardon or grant her reprieve, commutations on any of her sentence, but Trump can. And so maybe, as long as many of us have suspected, she's been holding stuff back as leverage and will be willing to drop it out in future leverage conversations. So here is what the Court of Appeals said. Now, the battle is, they want the records. The journos, Virginia Gouveia, who is now dead, rest in peace to her, have now appealed this, and the Second Circuit came down and decided the following. They say, all right, here's the background. Following this court's remand in another case, Brown versus Maxwell, remember tons of people sued Maxwell and Epstein, the Southern District of New York individually reviewed and unsealed voluminous documents in this now settled defamation action. So some records are out. So then the plaintiff, Virginia Gouveia, and the interveners, the Miami Herald, and the reporter, Julie Brown, they appeal. They say the lower court declined to unseal certain documents. Okay, so some of it was unsealed, but a lot of the good stuff was not. So they sued. They say that the lower level court made a mistake. They said that undecided motions that were rendered moot should have been released. So you file something, you withdraw it, give us those documents because they're not a part of the official record. You should release those, they said. They're also saying that the transcript of Virginia's deposition, which was in a separate action that was offered as the case, part of the case file, was entitled more to just a barely cognizable presumption of public access, meaning we should see that transcript. They also said the judge screwed up, finding that as to parts of Maxwell's deposition about her sexual relationships with adults, that her privacy interest, the judge said, Maxwell's privacy interest in her sex life outweighed any presumption of public access, and we could not know about it. They said judge was wrong, and finding that the countervailing privacy interest of various pseudonymized third parties to outweigh the public access of right is also wrong. And they declined to make public the redacted list of the pseudonymized third parties used by the district court in its unsealing. They also declined to make certain anonymous submissions made public as well. Okay, so there's like 6 buckets of materials they say you should give us access to. The lower level judge did not, so please reverse it. Now, the Court of Appeals came back down and said, no. Ghislaine says that this court, the Second Circuit, has no jurisdiction to even review these things. And that's because they didn't file their appeal on time. It's too late. They couldn't have appealed this and they screwed up and they're out of time. In any event, she says the lower level judge was right. Okay, you don't get access to any of those other documents. So the Second Circuit comes out and says, well, this court concludes that we do have jurisdiction, and upon review, we identify no error with the district court's decisions not to unseal or make many of the documents at issue public, right? So those documents can continue to be sealed. Now, as to others, however, we might get something. We hereby clarify that the judicial nature of a document is properly determined at the time it was filed, such that a motion that is a judicial document when filed does not cease to be so because the case settles, therefore making it moot. All right, so like there's a bunch of motions that got submitted that never hit any actual decision point in the court proceedings because the case settled. Well, can we see those? No, those are part of the record. Not really. I mean, the case was settled. They're moot. Nobody even decided on those. They say, well, it's still a part of the record, so we're probably not going to see that. Now, the fact that a court does not rely on a particular document in making a ruling does not mean that the presumption of public access is only barely cognizable, and so maybe we can see some stuff. A motion to seal or unseal judicial documents invokes the court's supervisory powers, and thus filings relevant to that motion are themselves judicial documents, so that third-party transcript not getting it. To the extent the district court concluded otherwise, we vacate its denials of unsealing and remand for further individual review of sealed documents and unsealings as warranted, consistent with this opinion. In all other respects, however, we affirm. And so the lower level judge is going to win, basically win and be validated in this decision, saying the judge properly kept stuff sealed. If he wants to qualify it as a judicial document, basically he can, as long as it's filed as part of the record, a case file somewhere. Even if the case settles, you can't access those things. So we would call this a Ghislaine Maxwell win, although there's a possibility that maybe some other stuff comes out. I highly doubt it. I think the judge will just say, yeah, it's exactly what I said. It's all part of the judicial record, so you're not getting it. So it's a big decision out of the Second Circuit. And again, the real reason I think it's interesting is because Maxwell is fighting in this one to keep the records sealed. Again, the reason might be because she's got no leverage here, and all this would really do is just provide ammunition to the news media. So why would she give anything useful to Virginia Gouveia or the Miami Herald or to anybody who doesn't have any power? She wouldn't. So we can, I think, justify a different presentation from Ghislaine and expect more openness in spite of the prior very strong attempts to keep all of this under seal. Now, while we're trying to get access to records and figure out what Ghislaine and Epstein were doing in conjunction with all of their clients all across America, Kash Patel has emerged, and they put together this amazing video. And here's what the FBI said. Don't worry, America. Operation Grayskull represents one of the most significant strikes ever made against child abuse material websites on the dark web. Every arrest in these cases not only delivers justice, it sends a powerful message. You cannot hide behind anonymity to harm children. Very interesting right now to say that in the middle of this conversation, where a bunch of people who harm children have been living anonymously for the last several decades. But anyways, here's Kash Patel, who posted this on the 23rd, explaining the following for us. Ooh.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kash Patel,
Hey,
Director of the FBI. I'm excited to announce the results of a global operation to take down 4 of the biggest child sexual abuse sites on the dark web and bring the criminals who operated them to justice. As a result of Operation Grayskull, the FBI arrested 19 subjects here in the United States, and working with our international partners, helped coordinate additional arrests in 7 more countries. Shockingly, many of these perpetrators had no prior criminal records. They were people we knew and trusted, neighbors, colleagues, even family members. They were active in our communities and around our children. This is why we must stay vigilant. Investigations like this are thorough and resource intensive. They often take years due to the complexity of tracking perpetrators on the dark web. Specialized teams like the FBI's Child Exploitation Operational Unit work tirelessly to find those who harm our children and put them behind bars. Through global partnerships and dedicated resources, the FBI works to ensure that all children have the chance to grow up safe and free from exploitation. Rest assured, we will keep hunting these criminals no matter where they are. Thank you for keeping our children safe.
Okay, so 19 people, huh? I think it probably took 19 people for them to make this video, quite frankly. And they got 19 people on all that. So, all right, I guess that's good. We're happy that 19 of them are now off the streets. Great job, Kash. All right, so we've got that. Now, here's another one. We've got this from, moving on. We'll move on. We've got some Obama stuff that's now happening. And this is very, very interesting. Obama administration officials looking a little bit nervous. This is the director of national intelligence, James Clapper, telling CNN that, yeah, he's talking to his lawyers all right, because the Tulsi Gabbard DNI drops exposed this DNI's corruption and criminality in colluding with Obama and Comey and Brennan, the CIA, to create false intelligence reports to try to smear the incoming president as being connected to Russia and colluding with them to boot. So what is now happening is they're seeing the writing on the walls. Things are looking like they're under scrutiny and they're rounding up their attorneys.
And the director says that she's referred these filings to the Justice Department for a criminal investigation. Tonight, we're told they formed what is called a strike force. Do you have concerns that they will attempt to prosecute you?
Well, certainly I do. After 8.5 years of this, and I don't know of an intelligence product that was more scrutinized, more investigated than that product was by numerous people. It's very disconcerting. It really is.
Yeah, you were all in on it. Yeah, Comey, liar. Brennan, liar. Clapper, you, liar. Everybody else in there, Obama's a liar, Clinton's a liar, Mark Elias, Christopher Steele, they're liars, in my opinion. And they all work together to create this story about Trump-Russia collusion. And he was a beneficiary of Putin's efforts in America to change the outcome of the election so that they could stop Trump from actually taking the White House.
And I take seriously when the President of the United States accuses me of being a participant in a treasonous conspiracy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, what's your reaction to that?
It's ridiculous. It is untrue.
So what will you do if they come after you? What is your plan?
Well, I'll lawyer up, I suppose. Already have.
You've already hired attorneys in anticipation that this Trump Justice Department could try to prosecute you.
We've had sort of perpetual attorneys since I left the government in 2017.
Yeah, and now you're going to have to look for a criminal attorney, too. So hopefully you found a couple good ones, too. And he probably also hired a shredding company and got Hillary Clinton's referral for her bleach bit company as well, who's coming over here to do a nice little spring cleaning of those old files on those hard drives. Huh, Clapper. So that is what is happening there. Now, meanwhile, John Cornyn and Lindsey Graham, some of the two worst senators in America, are now joining forces. Amazing. Here, Lindsey Graham and I are urging Pam Bondi to appoint a special counsel to investigate the extent to which former President Obama and his staff and administration officials manipulated the U.S. national security apparatus during Russiagate. Thanks, John. While we've known there was zero evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia, it's become more evident that the entire Russia collusion hoax was fabricated by the Obama administration to subvert the will of the American people. Well, that's curious, John. You know what else they did? Abused FISA to spy on Trump. And you love FISA, John. You can't get enough FISA. You want FISA coming out of your ears. And we don't. So he and Lindsey Graham are now going to say, we want a special counsel so they can appoint someone like John Durham, or encourage Trump to do that, who will then just waste everybody's time and not do anything meaningful or substantive because they are pure institutionalists who investigate themselves and find they did nothing wrong. We've already got a special counsel, okay? Not officially is the title, but it's Pam Bondi. It's the Trump administration. And Pam Bondi, we have a complicated relationship, okay? It's complicated on Facebook. But she is in the position and she has the responsibility to do something about this. So that is the special counsel, John. And Lindsey Graham was saying the same thing. And here's what Lindsey Graham said in response to John Cornyn. He said, for the good of the country, we need to support Ukraine. I mean, that's not what he said. Senator Cornyn and I urge Pam Bondi, we don't want you or your strike force to do anything. The strike force actually has some mechanisms by which they can move rapidly. They can pull people in from all of the various agencies to create this team that just goes fast and goes quick. They don't want that. John Cornyn and Lindsey Graham, they're the same Ukraine shills who were probably colluding with the people who gave the bad intelligence from Ukraine. We read through the whole document yesterday. It was redacted and they didn't want to tell us where it came from, but it was obvious it came from the Ukrainians because they were trying to create a conflict with Russia. They actually did not want Trump to win because they thought he might negotiate with that, and they wanted to set Trump up. So they were actually, it wasn't Russian attacks or Russian disinformation. It was Ukrainian. And who loves the Ukrainians? Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn. They can't get enough of Zelensky and their FISA. They have Zelensky FISA parties. So yeah, so that happened. And we also had Joni Ernst coming out saying she's in the Senate
against the incoming president,
explaining there needs to be action here. Let's see if she's calling for a special counsel as well.
To move on to Mr. Fox, your job ensures whistleblowers can trust the system they're reporting into. And as you know, last Friday, the director of national intelligence declassified documents exposing what she called a treasonous conspiracy carried out by some of the highest ranking officials in our nation to weaponize the intelligence community against the incoming president of the United States, framing him as being the president in part over accusations built on fiction. Taxpayers were stuck with a $32 million bill for Mueller's witch hunt. Trust in our intelligence apparatus was undermined, and despite all of this, the American people saw through the lies and re-elected President Trump last November. So let me be clear, weaponizing government against political opponents is un-American. So, Mr. Fox, will you commit to turning over every rock, regardless of how uncomfortable or embarrassing the truth may be for the intelligence community?
Thank you for addressing this, Senator, and absolutely, that is what I've been asked to do.
And do you agree that the intelligence community should be impartial, apolitical, and never weaponized against U.S. citizens or the leaders they choose?
Absolutely, Senator.
Thank you very much for your straightforward answers. Thank you all very much.
Now, hopefully that continues if that dude is officially nominated and confirmed. Now, Byron Donalds was also out. Of course, Barack Obama came out and he threw a little hissy fit. He says, hey, I talked to my gay friend like everyone should have. And my gay friend told me, like all boys should have, that Trump is a bad person. What just happened to my screen? Here it is from Byron Donalds. And Obama is explaining, he said that there's a bunch of nonsense coming out of the President Trump's mouth, but we all saw the writing and the documents, and we know what ultimately happened here. And Byron Donalds is responding to this, and here's what he said with our friends over on cable.
Have you seen it? Are you aware of its contents?
I'm aware of its contents, actually going to be going through it today. But let's assert a couple things. Number one, the statement from President Obama yesterday is flimsy at best because they use this fake intelligence that, quite frankly, nowhere in the actual intelligence community could they produce it. They concocted this out of the White House to launch almost a 2-year investigation into Donald Trump and his administration to derail that administration. And the only reason why they did this is because they just could not get over the fact that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, stopping the radical left from continuing their policies from the Obama administration into what they thought was going to be a Clinton administration. So that's the bottom line here. So there has to be more investigations into this. This is something definitely, in my opinion, the FBI and the Department of Justice need to look into, because the key question is who in the White House and or what officials went to the FISA courts to get wiretaps into the Trump campaign and also into elements of the Trump administration.
Yeah, based on fake reporting, Steele dossier, and other evidence that was manufactured by the intelligence agencies to justify those FISA warrants. And John Cornyn and Lindsey Graham love that place. Now, this guy's freaking out. You can see he's a Democrat called Jim Hines. And our friend Devory Darkins, shout out to Devory, he's over at Devory Darkins, and he is explaining that Jim Hines is absolutely losing it, screaming about how Trump accusing people of treason is going to lead to violence and lead to harm, which is weird because we just got out of 4 years of the President of the United States taking the podium from the gates of hell with his red, blood-dripped flags hanging around him, screaming about insurrection from the podium. That was the president. And the FBI was kicking in doors of American citizens who were peacefully protesting there at the Capitol building, invited into the Capitol. And now they're going to come out and have a hyperventilation meltdown over Trump identifying treasonous activities and doing something about it. Here's what they sound like.
And what troubles me most about this, Nicole, is that I'm standing in a spot that on January 6, 2021 was overrun by a violent mob intent on hanging the vice president and killing people like me. And it was all driven by a lie propagated by Donald Trump. And now we're seeing that playbook again. And my only question is, when people like Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump accuse an ex-president of a capital crime that is punishable by death, who is going to die? Who is going to die because they've decided that they need a distraction away from the Epstein calamity, which they brought upon themselves?
Well, I mean, I don't know who's going to die. Hopefully, justice is served, and if that results in the penalty for treason because somebody's convicted of treason, and that is properly adjudicated according to the due process of the laws and a jury of their peers and all those things, well, then that's the process. And so nobody's encouraging anybody to be unlawfully murdered or something like that, you psychopath. All we're asking for is justice. And so just take a chill pill. Just sit down and relax. Have yourself a spritzer and relax for the evening. Now, we also see that, unfortunately, we've got some bad news on this one. The Oversight Project, who's delivered some very good reporting that we've covered a lot here, they shared this. They said, listen, we're getting pretty tired of Pam and Todd, all right? So while we're asking about special counsels, while we're asking about Epstein files, while Todd's meeting, there's a lot going on in the DOJ. We got it. But the Oversight Committee says we've had enough. 133 days is enough of this. And here's what they write. For reasons we cannot explain, Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche are covering up records related to the AutoPen scandal. While we have been working with the White House and Congress on this matter, we now learn that the DOJ wants us to slow our investigation. Why? Here's our statement. Says Trump has said that nothing is more important than getting to the bottom of this. It is perhaps the biggest scandal in our nation's history. The Office of Legal Counsel has the most senior lawyers advising on constitutional questions. And so we demanded records related to the scandal. And apparently, they have responsive records. But instead of releasing those records per our demand, Trump's DOJ is trotting out stock excuses to delay. 133 days and counting, and they want to kick the can down to September, where they will try to kick it down the road again. That's unacceptable. We need to know what's happening, and so give us the records. Now, again, the basis for this might be because they're about to charge some people, and they're not going to give you a bunch of stuff if it's part of an ongoing investigation. But we certainly hope that this is something that is not a pattern and we ultimately get the materials that we want. Now, the GOP and the House are also launching a new J6 Select subcommittee, which we've been waiting for a long time. We want to know about the pipe bombers. We want to know about Nancy Pelosi and the phone calls and why Stephen Sund was ignored and why they were warning their people to send support to their homes, but not to the Capitol. Why was that? According to the Capitol Hill chief of police, a lot of questions. And how come that data was corrupted, according to the FBI special assistant, Stephen D'Antuono? How come that happened? So House Republicans are launching their own subcommittee. And you know what's so pathetic about this is they just don't play like the Democrats. We talked about this morning on the Membos Only stream, right? When Democrats are in charge politically, they're just out there, slicing heads because they don't play around. Politically, not, and maybe sometimes they try, but shooting heads. But politically, they're brutal. Nancy Pelosi, remember, didn't appoint any Republicans that Kevin McCarthy wanted on the fake, illegally constituted subcommittee. Instead, put Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, fake Republicans, on there and said that this was now a bipartisan committee. Well, the Republicans are going to actually follow the rules this time. Says, we're proud of our work. They've long argued that the original committee was flawed. Earlier this year, they launched broad efforts to undo the fake scam that they concocted. It wasn't even legally constituted. H.R. 503 said 5 Republicans. There were 2. They were supposed to be appointed in consultation with the minority leader. They were not. Supposed to be a minority caucus set up. There was not. And more. So Loudermilk said he expected the breakdown to be 5 Republicans and 3 Democrats is what it's going to be. House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan and Jamie Raskin, who was on the last subcommittee, will be ex officio members. And although assignments have not been finalized, Loudermilk said Morgan Griffith would also serve. Raskin was on the last one and is just terrible. So why don't they just go kick Raskin off there? Just go appoint some milquetoast Democrats on there who are basically Republicans. Like, go find the most conservative Democrats, if there are any that exist, who are in like very, very red districts and about to lose. Put them on there, and then they can play the token Democrat role, just like Kinzinger did, just like Cheney did. So that is developing. Ro Khanna was also out, and they were talking that today, Ron Klain, Joe Biden's former chief of staff, was in there today answering questions, actually responding, didn't invoke and plead the fifth like the Biden doctor did and like many others have before. So maybe we'll see what Ron had to say.
Ron Klain is currently giving a deposition before committee staffers. Unlike Andy Tomasini, Anthony Brunel, and Dr. Kevin O'Connor, he did not take the fifth. We spoke with Ro Khanna and Congressman Andy Biggs after the first session, just before the lunch break. Here's what they said about his testimony.
I found Mr. Klain to be very credible. He answered every single question. He was fully cooperative. There are times where he was asked about personal conversations he had with the president, and he was forthcoming, even if he could have said it was a private matter.
Carefully, it's going. He's saying the things that I kind of expected him to say, which is reflective of the book, the Whipple book, and some of the articles written about that. But he's been answering the questions, I think, forthrightly and in the way he sees the world.
Interesting.
Not there for the deposition today, but you've been talking with your colleagues on the committee. What have you been hearing?
I think that it's disclosing what's going on and just the track they took to get things done. You know, of course, the auto pen is what everybody's looking at. But I think the interesting thing to note is with this, if you've ever talked to prosecutors, especially the mob or other groups like that, they find somebody who will talk. And this guy's an honorable man, and he sees the writing on the wall. And these other people are trying to avoid probably a prison sentence, and they're being ill-advised, I would say. And he's been advised correctly. And I suspect once the mortar starts falling off the brick wall, a few more of these are going to come forward because they're going to say, man, I'm going to be implicated in this thing, and they're going to have to start talking. But I find it to be very credible. And, you know, and the thing is, too, the national media chastised people like me. I was banned from stations because I said things that he was inept and mentally unstable to be the commander in chief. And that was years ago.
Yeah, that was
and
a
now
cover-up.
all of a sudden it's just commonplace. So I think that can't be said enough.
All right, Tim Burchett explaining what's happening from his perspective. And we also had some more. This woman over from Fox was reporting.
Incredible. Listen to this.
He's not trying to avoid answering the question.
Biden at all in that claim.
Oh, there was Ron Klain going to the bathroom.
Mr. Klain, can you just tell us now that you're done with this deposition, did you talk about Hunter Biden at all?
Sorry, pee-pee time.
Claim about Ambien?
Ugh!
Okay, Martha, looks like he has stopped over in the restroom.
Well, that's nice. She didn't go in there to follow him.
While he is in there, I just want to tell you that they were asking, I was told they were asking him today about those Hunter Biden claims that his father had been given Ambien before that debate, and that is the reason for his disastrous debate performance. And so the Oversight Committee chairman said that they were going to ask questions about that, particularly because Ron Klain was there with him, very close, up and personal with President Biden during that debate prep. He definitely did not paint a very pretty picture of the president in this book, Uncharted by Chris Whipple. In it, he said that Biden was exhausted and out of it. And here's a quote from it. 25 minutes into the second mock debate, the president was done for the day. He said, "I'm just too tired to continue. I'm afraid of losing my voice here, and I feel bad." And then he says that Biden told him, "I just need to sleep. I'll be fine tomorrow." And he went off to bed. Now, Hunter Biden did backtrack a little bit after that interview in which he made those comments. He told ABC News a little bit later that he didn't mean that his dad took Ambien right before the debate. He was just talking about how exhausted he was and he needed help sleeping. But we're just waiting for Ron Klain to pop out. We're going to let him
finish taking a dump and come back out. So, all right, Ron, you got Fox News waiting for you in there, man. So hurry up. So, all right, that was that. Now, we also saw Ted Cruz was on with Laura Ingraham, and they're throwing shade on our Obama treason fun time. We don't appreciate that, Ted.
A member of the press today asked if, because of the Supreme Court's decision, John Roberts' decision in the immunity case, could Obama, it was basically implying that Obama has no vulnerability here in an investigation. Briefly describe why that's not accurate 100%.
Look, it is challenging what the Supreme Court has said in the immunity cases. Official decisions are protected by official immunity. So it's clear, for example, Barack Obama ordered a drone strike on Anwar al-Awlaki, an American citizen. He cannot be prosecuted for that because that was an official action. That's what the Supreme Court said.
Yeah, which is very strange. Remember that? And how the left never screeched about due process of law on that. An American citizen got drone strike bombed into oblivion by Obama, killed, no court of law, no due process, no presumption of innocence. Obama did it repeatedly. They don't care. Unless it's an illegal alien called Kilmar Abrego who traffics humans into our country, then all of a sudden everybody has to bend themselves into pretzels in order to give them extra due process and premium versions of America. But the Obama administration was taking out citizens without any regard at all.
By the way, FDR could not be prosecuted for dropping atom bombs on Japan. Truman could not be prosecuted. Oh, there's a whole host of actions. Rather, Truman for dropping atom bombs, FDR for detaining Japanese citizens. Internment. The point is, official decisions of the president.
So is December 9th an official decision?
That's the question.
That's a hard call.
Look, there would be an argument about it. I'll tell you.
He's not going to be prosecuted for treason. But that's not going to happen.
He's not going to be prosecuted in all likelihood for treason, but where the criminal liability will start is with members of the Obama administration who went under oath before Congress and lied, flat out lied. We know Jim Clapper has lied. repeatedly, and that will be the beginning of the investigation. Also, fabricating evidence. Evidence.
Made it up.
That investigation needs to play out. This is a very important new trove of information Tulsi Gabbard has released.
Yeah, and ordered by the president, said repeatedly, Obama did it. And now they are lawyering up. And so Clapper got his attorneys in tow. Brennan's probably working on his, and Obama, well, he can just talk to his wife. All right, so we got that. Now let's turn our attention to the 14th Amendment, my friends, and see what's happening here, because this is pretty embarrassing, and let's go through it. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals drops one of the more embarrassing decisions in recent memory. This is the Birthright citizenship case, where all of these states, Washington, Arizona, I'm sorry to admit that, Illinois, Oregon, and others, sued Trump, and they said illegal aliens who break into our country and drop off babies, they automatically get the full benefits of citizenship because they're better than you, and they just can take what they want in violation of your national sovereignty for their own selfish gains. And we've seen other filings here where they've actually explicitly said that. We saw some illegal alien mom in another lawsuit who said that Trump was harming her because her fourth baby, if that fourth baby is not born a citizen, then she's not going to get SNAP benefits for her baby, which is inhumane. How could we do that to her after she broke into our country and demanded we pay for her kids? So Trump, of course, is being sued on this one. And the Ninth Circuit just embarrassed themselves. And it's a 78-page decision, but I'll just show you what a joke this is. And the judge is named Ronald Gould, who is a Bill Clinton appointee, and he wrote this opinion. And this judge must be either malicious or just dumb, because he's not even reading or following the Constitution as it's written, as I'll show you. But here is who this dude is, appointed by Bill Clinton back in 1999. He's a Democrat, University of Pennsylvania, and here's the things. Gold is Jewish. Clerks is able to get a good result. He's got multiple sclerosis. Lost the use of arms. He's now in a wheelchair. Oh, great. All right, so he came out and he posted this decision, and maybe that explains why it's so bad. I don't know, because he's in a wheelchair. So did that affect his brain too? I don't know, but maybe. But anyways, they wrote this. Now, let me share this with you because it says Washington, this is from this judge, Washington, Arizona, Illinois, and Oregon, they are expectant mothers. And one of the moms says, I need SNAP benefits for my illegal child. And they challenged Trump's executive order. Trump's executive order denies citizenship to children born in the United States territory of people who are here temporarily or unlawfully in the United States. So the district court in the lower level, we're in the Ninth Circuit now, entered a universal preliminary injunction which bars implementation of Trump's order. So Trump appeals, saying the states lack standing. They can't sue us over this, and you should have never issued the preliminary injunction, and the injunction was overbroad. So watch what they say right here. We address whether the executive order from Trump is constitutional invalid. So what you have to do is take the executive order and measure it against the Constitution. The Constitution says these are the rules you have to follow to do the things you want to do. Did the executive order violate that? Let's see. This judge says we conclude that Trump's executive order is invalid because it contradicts the plain language of the 14th Amendment and its grant of citizenship. And watch what they do. This is so dishonest, if not malicious. They wrote, quote, 14th Amendment says, their grant of citizenship says all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, period. And you might say, well, that's pretty close. I mean, that sounds pretty right to us. I mean, that's 14th Amendment. Kind of, but not. And the judge is doing this intentionally. Now, if you just actually read the statute, if this judge could do that, he would see this is what it actually says, the 14th Amendment. And you'll notice it's a little bit different. It's actually much fuller. And so the judge was quoting this, all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, period. And they even referenced it in a quote, calling it the plain language of the law, right? You just read it. It's very easy to read it. Let me recreate it for you. And they did it erroneously. So they can't even read the plain language of the Constitution, which says the following. And it's got very important markers of punctuation, which we spend a lot of time on in the law. In constitutional law, a ton of time. Where was the comma? Where was the, where are the logical separations between phrases and clauses, and how do you assemble all the words on the page? Here's what it actually says. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and, comma, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, comma, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside, period. So they left out this whole, kind of second part of this, of the United States and more. But and subject to the jurisdiction thereof is a separate qualifying phrase. That's why we have the commas. It's not one in of the same. In other words, it's not conjunctive, such that you can say, if you're born and these other things, then you're good. You got to achieve both of those conditions separately. Physically born in the country, and you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And they left out those commas intentionally, okay, to make this one run-on sentence and to make this second phrase not matter at all. And just said, well, if you're born here and you're subject to the jurisdiction, like you're born here and you're, physically, and you are subject to the laws, then that's enough. It neuters the phrase, and they're doing it intentionally. And it's very dishonest because they say, just look at the plain language. He said that right there. That's not what it says. And if you say, hey, Rob, what does the actual Constitution show when they wrote this document down? It says there are commas in there. The 14th Amendment says here, all persons born or naturalized in the United States, comma, it's right there, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, comma, are citizens of the United States and of the respective states wherein they reside. That's the actual written document. So according to the plain language of the Constitution, there's a whole separate clause there that means something, Judge. And it's dishonest. They do this intentionally, in my opinion, and they're doing it to pervert their outcome. They just changed. This is the foundational sentence of this order. And he didn't even quote the Constitution right by design, because it's a textual perversion of what the Constitution says, and it's offensive. And they're doing it. It's like gross negligence or active maliciousness. You can pick one, but it's for a reason. Okay, it's these little nuanced things. They just, well, close enough. No. Because the individual plaintiffs are covered by a class action, we're not going to look at that. And if you think I'm just being pedantic over the actual commas, let me explain how the entire basis of their argument is also failing. Here they tell us the 14th Amendment was adopted after the Civil War. Judge Gould can't figure this out, but he says it said that we grant citizenship to slaves. Got it. Now, when the 14th Amendment was ratified, whether birthright citizenship applied to the children of non-citizens was still an open question. But the Supreme Court answered that question in Wong Kim Ark, and I'm going to show you that case next. When the case was decided, Chinese nationals in the United States were not permitted to become citizens. They were not. Chinese Exclusion Act. Chinese laborers could not re-enter the United States if they left. And so Chinese laborers were also required to obtain a certificate of residence, a non-laborer Chinese person, harsh presumption of whatever. So all of this is kind of red herring, not relevant. Now, against that backdrop, the Supreme Court considered the case of Wong Kim Ark. He was a Chinese American man who was denied re-entry into the United States despite being born in the United States. The question, of course, he was geographically, physically born in the country. No one's debating that. But what the question was, what was the status of his parents, Wong Kim Ark's parents? Because that's the analogy we're trying to draw between the illegal alien parents of illegal babies now. The Supreme Court canvassed English common law, early American decisions back in the 1800s and the Wong Kim Ark case, and the meaning of the 14th Amendment. And they said that the Citizenship Clause stands for this: the fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within the dominion of the United States notwithstanding alienage of the parents. Now, for that reason, although Wong Kim Ark's parents would have been unable to naturalize or even return to the United States, Wong Kim acquired citizenship by birth within the United States. And that is how it was. Since that was decided in 1898, and until this challenged order, the judiciary has consistently and uniformly protected this, regardless of an immigration status of an individual's parents. Now, that's their assessment, okay? That's the crux of their decision on this one as it relates to Wong Kim Ark, the seminal case on this. Now, all you have to do, if you're Judge Gould, we know he had a hard time reading the 14th Amendment, too complicated for him, but the actual case also explains right in the very beginning about how this works. In the Wong Kim Ark case from the Supreme Court of the United States, let's hit this refresh and make sure this puppy loads up for us. I don't know why it's not loading right now. You just saw it. It was just loaded. And looks like we're having a little bit of an error here. Okay, so let me find an alternative source, but we've got this Wong Kim Ark. Let's take a look. We got this one's here. It's my internet working. Are we live? The PDF's not loading up. All right, so we're just going to wait a minute and wait for it to appear. And here it is. Thank you. All right, so we've got this. Now, here is the decision. So, as a recap, where are we jumping into this? Well, the lower level judge, or the Court of Appeals judge, just said that Wong Kim Ark was only about physical geographic birth, essentially. And that's it. That's all the analysis that we got out of them. But what the case says is very different. A child born in the United States of parents of Chinese descent, okay, so that would be like alienage. Where did they come from? Who at the time of his birth were subjects of the Emperor of China, okay, so they were Chinese, but have a permanent domicile and residence in the United States. Okay, this was decided 1898. It's the first sentence, Judge. The first sentence. Permanent domicile and residence, which means lawful. And they're there carrying on business, okay, engaging in American commerce, lawfully engaged in the business because they're here legally, permanently residing here. And they're not employed in any diplomatic or official capacity under the Emperor of China, becomes at the time of his birth a citizen. If you're here permanently and you're born here, then you have subjected yourself to the jurisdiction of the nation because you followed the laws to gain your domicile, your residence, and to engage in business. And it's all in the first sentence. Becomes at the time a citizen. And by virtue of this, all persons born and so this phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, is being explained right there. It's in the first paragraph on the reported decision in Wong Kim Ark. And they spent a ton of time on this in this 84-page decision, which we've talked a lot about. And here they said Wong Kim Ark was born in 1873 in Sacramento, city of San Francisco. They said at the time of his birth, his mother and father were domiciled residents of the United States and had established and enjoyed a permanent domicile, okay? Established meaning they are legal and residents therein at the said city. Now that said mother and father continued to reside and they went back to China at one point, but not, they had him here. Now, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now that during all the time in their residence, they were domiciled residents and the mother and father were engaged in business. They were even doing business here and were never engaged in any diplomatic or official capacity at all. And so that is different, okay? What this Judge Gould is doing is perverting that. He's saying, well, we just say anybody who's born here, no matter what, there's an explicit guarantee of birthright citizenship that comes from Wong Kim Ark. No, it doesn't, Judge. Saying that it has to do with alienage? It doesn't at all. So then they're going to go through, right? This judge is nuts and saying that the rest, like that's the analysis on this decision from the Ninth Circuit. It's embarrassing and it's pathetic. And the rest of this is going to all be about Trump and how Trump is bad. And the new executive order is doing the following, and the states have plenty of standing, and Trump loses. And it's just pathetic. Like the actual law miscites the 14th Amendment, can't even reference Wong Kim Ark appropriately, and perverts the whole thing, says we conclude that the states have lost reimbursement and funding, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to deny citizenship to illegal alien babies. And so the law needs to continue to be perverted because it's going to be very harmful to the illegal aliens. And so totally ridiculous decision. The judge should be embarrassed on the face of the document. Oh, look at that. He was a partner at Perkins Coie. Isn't that something? You know who worked there? Mark Elias and Michael Sussman. Then he got nominated from them. Bill Clinton shoved them up there. He loves Greenpeace and now loves illegal aliens. So, well, he's on the list of Jewish American jurists too. That's interesting. So they have a whole list of that. All right, so that's the judge. 14th Amendment. We're assured that Trump is going to appeal this up to the Supreme Court, and this will continue to percolate. We'll continue to cover it, call out these maniac lying judges who are perverting the laws, like this guy, Ronald Gould, and the rest of them on the Ninth Circuit. Should be embarrassed and really ashamed of themselves for perverting the Constitution by deleting key punctuation that is important in the law. It's like computer programmers or something, right? You don't put that little semicolon where it needs to go, the whole app crashes. You can't pervert the code. The Constitution should not be watered down by maniacs who think that they are the dictators of the country. We're going to keep our eye on this one, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and following as we do. All right, what a beautiful day it has been. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about today. Lots of Ghislaine-Maxwell stuff. Congress is going hog wild over there. Everybody crashing into each other, saying that they care more about Epstein all of a sudden. Been a weird thing to watch, but we're happy for the developments. And now James Comer has Ghislaine coming in for a subpoena on August 11th for a deposition at a federal correctional institution in Tallahassee. We've also got Mark Wayne Mullen and others submitting resolutions that are kind of being, rejected and kicked around as everybody's jockeying for their resolution to pass to show that they care more about Epstein than the other guy. And so lots of updates on that. We heard from Congress. We heard from Alan Dershowitz. We heard from our friend Amuse and got a lot of reaction on it. So that is happening. We also saw that the subpoena is much broader than just Ghislaine. It's also Bill and Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, Robert Mueller, William Barr, Jeff Sessions, and Alberto Gonzalez. Now, those subpoenas have not been drafted yet, but we're excited to see them. And we're going to get them and read them. So we got that. We also then talked about Ghislaine's case. She had this appeal happen where I would say she emerged victoriously on it. There's still a possibility that something useful comes out, but I doubt it. And it was an access to records case, less interesting than we thought it might be, but interesting to see how she is fighting for against the unsealing of certain materials. We got Kash Patel, who's making videos now. We also have Obama. Now, Obama and his people are also freaked out. James Clapper says he's lawyering up in case he gets charged with crimes, which we hope is coming. And Lindsey Graham and John Cornyn, two of Ukrainian FISA court lovers, are now joining hands together in the eternal battle for a special counsel now. Because a special counsel can come in here and solve this, says Lindsey. And probably won't identify any of his colluding with the Ukrainians. So we'll talk about that, of course, if anything comes of it. We had this guy freaking out about Tulsi's data drops. Burchett and others say that Ron Klain was in the White House today, very cooperative, or was talking today about a lot of things, not pleading the fifth. And then we saw the 14th Amendment hack decision written by this guy, Ronald Gould, who wrote a ghoulish decision that is completely ignoring the very important punctuation that they wrote into the Constitution. And they didn't do that erroneously. They do it throughout the entire Constitution to mark and articulate phrases and clauses and to assemble the logic of the law. and the judge just ignored it because he's a biased partisan, Perkins Coy Democrat hack. And now, my friends, it's time to hear from you and to see what you say about all of this. It's a beautiful Thursday. You know what that means. Tomorrow is Friday. We're excited about that. And we're excited to see you back here as well. So thanks for subscribing if you haven't already done that. We got a bunch of new membos coming in. Mock Schnell. Whoa, Mock Schnell. I see you out there. Bringing in a bunch of membos. Look at this. Dancing Winnie the Pooh. It's Thursday, so get your poo on. Have a great day. And everybody dance now, just like Winnie the Pooh. Hey, Bucky's is Rome is here. This is in the voice of Tony Soprano. He body slammed Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 is what he did. He carried the WWF on his back for a decade and ended the Cold War with a leg drop single-handed. He taught the world how to rip off their shirt and flex. And in this house, Hulk Hogan is a hero. End of story. Which is a great scene for The Sopranos when he's lecturing his kid about Christopher Columbus and the Italians. I should watch that series again. It's good. Bucky's is Rome. Hey, what's up? We got a Venn diagram. Did Kamala Harris draw this? She loves them, you know. We got three circles: Marxist, mountain lion, and toddler. Commonalities between a Marxist and a mountain lion: they both want to kill you. Between a mountain lion and a toddler, they both resist taking baths. Yeah, I haven't tried that with a mountain lion, but probably sounds true. And Marxist and a toddler are a lot of rambling monologues. That's also true. Those are in common. The commonality between all three: impossible to reason with. You might be able to do something with a mountain lion, depending what you have in your hands. First Ozzy, now Hulk Hogan. We want Mitch McConnell to live long and prosper. We just wanted to get out of the Senate and leave us alone. Saturn, Dreaming of Mercury. What's up? Saturn, Dreaming of Mercury is here. Thanks for sending this in and being a membo, Saturn. Says, seeing the OG Constitution so faded like that reminds me of that Hindu eschatological belief that in the end times, all the words of the sacred texts simply disappear. I know it is kind of shocking, right? That the scan of that is so hard to read. Like, we couldn't have scanned that before it got so, like, we don't have a higher resolution scan of that thing. It's from the National Senate.gov. That's all we got. It is. It's like, I need to put some glasses on. But that's what we got, man. Thankfully, we have that, so we can still refer to it and say, there are commas in there, dumb judge. Hey, Angry Conservative, what's up? 1981, thanks for raiding our stream. We appreciate that. Amazing of you to do that. Hey, Mock Schnell. Hey, Rob, I think I'm about a month shy of a baby since becoming a full membo here. Woo! So giving out a few more membos to celebrate that, and you finally proposing to Alexis. Remember, you are now one, not two. Is that right when you're engaged? Or do you have to get married for that to happen? To become one? Wasn't that a song by Seal or something? Hey, Sua Sponte, thank you, Mock Schnell, for the new membos. We got a bunch of them coming in. We'll welcome them coming up. Hey, we got this, and thanks for being here, Mock Schnell, as a membo for full term. It's a long time. We've been through some stuff together. What's going on? Sua Sponte says, Rob, you know I love you and never miss a stream, but for the love of God, can you please not pronounce her name, especially the sex trafficking case, Ghislaine? It's pronounced Zeline. I heard somebody said it was pronounced Ghislaine. That's what I've heard. That's why I call her that. Ghislaine? Is that how you say it? I don't know. I think it's Ghislaine or it's Ghislaine. I don't know. I've heard it both ways. Like literally. So, I don't know. We're going to have to figure out but it is gross. It's a gross name, I know. Hey, Patrick C., what's up? Welcome aboard as a membo. Mock Schnell bringing in 50 new membo friends. What's up? Happy Mac is here. Stephen T., 901 Picks, another user. Tom Lavati, Brian Weber, Keith Schonk. What's up, Todd? H. Paul R. Honk Honk is here. Neo Jade, No Set Direction. What's up, Robin Schaefer, Raven Wings, Miss Vicky May. What's up, Kenneth Widener, Billy N. A lot to learn. We got Tammy Boy, James O. Welcome, Miros. We have Tinch, Marcia Lee, Gerald Rogers. What's up, Jason P. Space Mom, Carl Spackler, Based Shaman in the house. Riz Quesa's beloved. What's up, Mana, Clarence, Greg McHenry. We got Tim Robinson, Scott Nassler, Ham Toast is here. Kobe Packmeyer, Adam Caperton, Cutie McGraw, Carol Reed, Botanic Shield, John Smoot is here, Horsewoman, what's up? Tanya Haas, Alan Lanham, Luke Ahead, Henry back to play, Acadalia, Elunvira, welcome, Velvet Mall, Kevin Nonstopolis, and Eugene Sands, all gifted members in the house, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for bringing in 50 new Membo friends and 50 new Membos. Stick around. We're going to have an after party, baby. Don is here. Hey, there's a big, large file of actionable Epstein banking data sitting dormant at the Treasury. Wonder if it'll ever break. Well, I did see that. We didn't play Ro Khanna today because we had enough Democrat stuff. But I did hear him say that he was going to go after the financial stuff. So Ro Khanna is saying, like, he's looking at JP Morgan had a bunch of settlements. The Virgin Islands settled with people. The financial component is a whole nother layer to the whole thing, which might be actually the main meat and potatoes of the whole saga. King of Biltong, what's up? Get your Biltong. You know where to get it. BiltongUSA.com. Code Robert over there, and you can save 10% off. High protein, 50% protein, B12 creatine. Love that creatine, baby. So get your Biltong, BiltongUSA.com. Thank you, King of Biltong, for the dono. What's up, Sharpie Guy? Says, bipartisan makes you wonder what the Democrats' angle is, doesn't it? It is strange. Yeah, I believe they will attach themselves to any little maybe and sail with it through the midterms. What do you think, Rob? Well, yeah, I think that it feels like they're jockeying for like the high ground on this issue, which is strange because none of them cared about it until 2 minutes ago. So it's like the Democrats are sensing a real wedge amongst the Trump base, and I think it is a real one. And so they're not dumb for trying to exploit it. And the Republicans are trying to reclaim that and bring that in and overtake it and just kind of take the high ground on it. But I don't think any of them are really genuine about it at all, quite frankly. Todd Lee Pitt, it's called Gig Lane. G-Lane. Ghislaine. Like Ghislaine? Ghislaine? I've heard Ghislaine. I don't know what it's called. We'll just call her Maxwell. All right. CFABs. Maxwell's public testimony. Thank you for being here 16 months, Todd Lee Pitt. And thanks for trying to help your boy here. Hey, CFABs. Maxwell's public testimony feels like a trap to hurt her enemies and Trump and to protect her allies. I'm very weary just having her publicly testifying, especially with a bunch of lying Democrats. Totally. Yeah. And this was the major risk of Pam Bondi and the administration. I think Pam Bondi had that signed off on by Trump of releasing a 2-page memo. It's like, what are you guys crazy? There's so many loose ends out there. Like, she's not even dead. So if she talks, she can come out and implicate everybody, or, you know, Dershowitz could break stuff, or a judge could unseal something, or somebody else could die, or, you know, who knows? So, yeah, there's a lot of risk, I think, for multiple people. It's very interesting. Off-Label Podcast says, never mind the fact that Caitlin Collins looks like Dylan Mulvaney. Is it just me or anyone else get irrationally angry over her square face? No, it's just me. I don't know if it's the face exactly or if it's what's coming out of the face that is so irritating. It could just be the face. Savage Studios, joke's on you. Dylan Mulvaney is Caitlin Collins. Mind blown. It's like that scene out of Ace Ventura. Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. Dylan is Caitlin. Caitlin is Dylan. Dylan is Caitlin. Caitlin is Dylan. Hey, what's up? Bucky's is Rome. Can we all have a moment of silence for how unserious Republicans are at fighting back? Clapper literally lied to Congress and literally illegally collected millions of Americans' data and tried to overthrow Trump's presidency, and they did nothing. I'm just sick of all the talking. And people going on Fox News. It's clear. Republicans don't like being in charge and are just buying time until the midterm so they can say, well, we need elected again, investigate what happened. Yeah, and that's like the special counsel thing. It's just kick it down the road. Don't let anything meaningful happen. Keep the status quo. Ride out Trump's term. And catch it after he leaves. Just take back over. Glenn Greenwald says, what complete BS? James Clapper is a liar. And yeah, so yeah. As we said, man, if they talk all of this and they don't actually do anything about it, they're going to look pathetic. Pathetic. And like, they have to know that, right? So if this is some just big kind of red meat thing to distract from Epstein and nothing happens, it's going to be devastating to the entire administration and their future and their legacy. It'll be legacy destroying if they don't, because they've talked it up too much. From Trump down to Tulsi, they've made, like, they're in on it. And if they're not, then it's going to be a blunder. Uncle Bozy says, I hope the strike force works its way down to Colonel Vindman, who was integral in the Trump-Ukraine phone call. I suspect he and his brother have always been Ukrainian agents. That's an interesting one, Uncle Bozy. Yeah, we saw a lot of overlap with what appeared to be Ukrainian intelligence in the declassified memo that we read yesterday. Yeah, Uncle Bozy. Good comment. Thank you. Hey, David D. Hart, what's up? Glenn Simpson, of Fusion GPS, is one of the dirtiest of them all. He's still working against Trump. He probably did the stick nude. Did the stick nude? I don't know what that means exactly. And I don't want to think too hard about it. I was trying, what is he talking? And I don't really want to think too hard about it. So we'll just leave that one alone. But yeah, Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS. Remember, I think New Star was the other company there. Rodney Jaffe, like all these guys. Alpha Bank, and they're all creating, like, we got this IP address data that we got from packets from our secret system that we were interfacing with the university to do internet research, making crap up. All of them should be investigated and charged. And if there's probable cause, not illegally, we're not Democrats here. If there's cause, charge them. Where are the RICO cases? Where are the Republican state AGs going after these guys? They're nowhere because the Democrats play like they mean it. Republicans don't. Clapper has an attorney. Want to bet he's proffering? Yeah, I don't know. So that was a question that we had, like, who's going to flip on everybody? So we played this game, I think. Was it on a member stream? I'm not sure if we did it here or not. But we asked, I think it was maybe in an after party. We asked, like, which one of these things would you flip? Who would you have flip? Okay, so you can play this game at home. So you got Obama, Clinton, Clapper, Comey, and Brennan, let's say. And you get 4 convictions. One of them has to turn on the Obama thing, right? Who do you flip? So Obama, Hillary, Brennan, Comey, Clapper. Who do you try to flip? And I think we settled on your boy. I don't think there's a lot of disagreement on this one, but I think you grant the immunity to Hillary and you turn her loose on the rest of them, especially Obama, because I think she'll get bitter about Obama. She's mad at him. She never got the presidency. He stole it from her. So you just make a little incentive against her, against Obama. So you give her immunity. She can dish on everybody and just be Hillary. And that's her penance. Hey, Savage Studios, that Fox reporter should have totally followed Ron Klain into the restroom. You're right. All she had to do is pull the identify as a man card. That's right. You know, I'm feeling pretty manly right now. So I'm just going to go in here and take a pee. Hilarious. Just follow her right in. Follow Ron Klain. Hey, Ron. You know, he might have, yeah, anyways, hilarious. That's funny. Could have just burst in there. What the heck is going on in here? Hey, don't be a bigot, Ron. I'm here to urinate with the men. Hey, rub some dirt on it. Hey, Rob, does Ted Cruz have a podcast? I almost forgot to mention that. Rub some dirt on it. He does. And it's really nice. You know, rub some dirt on it. You're a very nice person. It's nice of you to think about Ted Cruz and hope that somebody will subscribe to him. So thanks for shouting out Ted Cruz's podcast. Hopefully somebody subscribes. It's probably not going to be anybody from here, but maybe. Mr. Magic Man, another special counsel for the Russia hoax. What, Mueller wasted $32 million and didn't even uncover what Tulsi did? Send in Bongino from Mr. Magic Man. Well, Bongino? What for what? What's he going to do? Anyways, I understand your enthusiasm, Mr. Magic Man, but I don't know that Bongino or Cash or Pam are going to do anything. We'll see, but we got our you know, their credibility. They've all been super silent about this stuff, and then all of a sudden Kash Patel comes out with this stupid video that they got 19 people arrested. It took 19 people to fix this video up, okay? Scripting, lighting, his outfit, miking him up, all these graphics. There was 19 people here. And so anyways, it's like, give me a break. Anyways, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Magic Man, but we don't want a waste of time. Chubby says, as someone from California, we want people who say what they're going to do and then do what they say they're going to do. Chubby says, as someone from California who has had his Second Amendment rights trampled on my entire life by the Ninth Circuit, I can tell you I was not surprised at all by this ridiculous ruling, but don't worry, it'll get even worse once SCOTUS overturns it and sends it back to them. That's always when they really outdo themselves. When they're in violation of the Supreme Court, like Boasberg, like Zenas, the rest of them. Hey, Deluxe Knight, farming away for us, says, I'm ashamed of my state, Washington, just like you are of Arizona, Rob. With regards to the lawsuit against Trump, they have teamed up with Illinois and Oregon. Yeah, Arizona has been, we've got like enemies in control. You know, they've like seized the reins of power. It's a red state, but we got a bunch of blue people who have seized power here. It's devastating. Doan, what's up? Hey, they're playing the same plain language game with the 14th as they do with the Second Amendment, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Yeah, and with the Second Amendment stuff, they then try to, I think, ignore the comma in that one too, and say that the right is for people in a militia. Okay, so it's not like your right, it's only if you're in a militia, and they get rid of that comma, which is a separate phrase. Savage Studio says, Ronald Gould says, English is hard. Yeah, well, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why he couldn't figure out how to read two separate things. Didn't even reference the actual holding of Wong Kim Ark and just made up something else. Hey, Jeffrey Adams, what's up, Jeffrey? Hey, from Todd L today. So we got one from Todd Blanche. Did Todd Blanche come out with a statement as we're here? Let's see what he said. Thank you for the heads up on that, if this is true. Here we go. Today, I met with Ghislaine, and I will continue my interview of her tomorrow. Ooh. The DOJ will share additional information about what we learned at the appropriate time. All right, Todd. You want to release the transcript of your conversation today? That'd be nice. Hey, DC Metro. Thank you for that, Jeffrey Adams. Very nice. And I will continue my interview. The DOJ will share additional information about what we learned at the appropriate time. Jeffrey Adams, thanks for the nice dono. Thanks for flagging that for us. So a 2-day interview, huh? That's curious. Very, very curious what was said. Hey, DC Metro is here. Pfft, man, that is the DC Metro. I'm going to DC next week. I'll see you there. Over there, DC Metro. See you in the Metro. Maybe I'll take the Metro. That'll be fun. Yeah. Or not, actually. DC, thank you for the nice dono. Sergey P. says, if a special counsel gets appointed, what do you think of a Bill Barr selection? Also, congrats on the engagement. Thank you, Sergey. I appreciate that. So does Alexis on her behalf. Thank you. We've got Sergey. Yeah, Bill Barr. Bill Barr. If they appointed Bill Barr, I would just probably, I don't know what I would do, man, but I would not be happy about it, okay? So that's the truth. Sergey, thank you for that. Bill Barr. Hey, this old guy says, Grok 4 says the following. For Ghislaine, the most widely accepted pronunciation is Ghislaine, or Ghislaine. See, I told you. In English-speaking context, the G can be pronounced as a soft G or J sound, and the S is often pronounced like a Z. So in French, it might be closer to Ghislaine or Ghislaine. Ghislaine. So not like Ghislaine, like that says Ghislaine. Like, I don't want to say that word. That's how you pronounce her name. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Says, which is a more softer, more nasal tone, as the name is of French origin. So that's what Grok says. So, yeah, no, I was not trying to do it to be perverted in any sense at all. It might have thought like that, but that's what I thought. Some people have said that. They said her name is Ghislaine. Okay, so just like, are you French? Don't be an American Luddite. Resin Waves by Veronica says it's pronounced Ghislaine in English. Here's how to pronounce Ghislaine from G-Gum. That looks like it's a YouTube link. Let's see what YouTube says and see what the source is on this.
Bonjour, this is Julian, the Frenchman who makes French pronunciation videos here on YouTube, and we are looking at how to pronounce this personal name of French origin that is also used in other countries with French-speaking populations. Now in French, this is normally pronounced Ghislaine. Ghislaine is how it would be said in France. However, in English, pronounced Ghislaine.
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine is how it would be said in France. However, in English, it is generally said Ghislaine. Ghislaine. Ghislaine from French, Ghislaine.
Ghislaine. Okay, so I was a little bit harder on the J. It's like Ghislaine, but it's like Ghislaine. It's Ghislaine. It's pretty close. So that's according to the French. Okay, so don't get mad at me about this. It's her name, not mine. Hey, CFO's Wiener is here. CFO says the birthday card from Trump to Epstein had a nude lady stick figure. Yeah, that's what they said. And they said he wrote his signature in his pubic hair. Yeah, we remember. Not Whole Studio. Thank you, CFO's person. What's up? Membo for 4 months. Not Whole Studio. Thank you for being a membo for 4 months. Almost halfway to a baby. We appreciate that. Fred George, I am subbed to Cruz's podcast. Fred, that is the nicest thing anybody's ever done. That's unbelievable. You're amazing, dude. Congratulations for doing something like that. I didn't think that was ever going to happen for him. But, wow. Congrats to Ted Cruz. He's got a podcast subscriber. We never thought it was going to happen for him, but he made it happen. That's incredible. Wow. Congratulations, Fred George. You know, you really made somebody's day over there. You did something really good for Ted. You're a good person. Thanks for doing that. Ep Tyrannical says, today, I received a raise to a 6-figure income. Let's go. With only a bachelor's degree. Heck yeah, it's too bad it feels like a nothing burger as the government taxes us to death indirectly through inflation. Anyway, here's to my raise and paying some forward. Thank you, Ep Tyrannical. Man, that's great, dude. Congratulations on inching up there. It's awesome, right? You know, we all slowly progress. We hit those major markers. That's awesome. It's really cool. And hopefully the inflation stops and the taxation stops and we enter this new golden age that we're all planning for. And that number goes from low 6 figures to mid 6 figures, and then 7-figure next stop. Ep Tyrannical. Awesome. Boopsy says, don't you realize that that's the reason we need Ghislaine Maxwell on the stand for questioning? We need you to clear things up once and for all. How are we supposed to pronounce your first name, Ghislaine? That's the most important question for all of us. I know. I feel like didn't Good Logic correct us on that one time? I feel like Good Logic, well, he's like, her name is something. I feel like Good Logic said something like that to us. I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, because Good Logic was in the courtroom, I think, back at the time, right? Didn't Good Logic go in there? Joe Neerman, right next door on YouTube and Rumble. Make sure you're subbing to him. And I think he went in there and he's like, I heard how they said it. And he's like, Ghislaine. And I was like, really? He might have told me that. I don't remember. It might have been on stream here. So I know it's gross. I know. And I really appreciate the prior comment who was saying, can you please stop saying it? It's hurting my ears. And that was from our friend up here who, I missed it. I don't know where it went. All right. I appreciate it. Yeah, it is. We can pick a more sanitary name, even though that's how you say it. Hey, appoint Gates as special counsel. Yeah, and I think that might be why some people didn't want him to be in there, right? Because he would actually pursue something meaningful. And maybe Pam won't. We'll see. Hey, what's up? Doan says, good call on Hillary. She told Donna Brazil that if that SOB wins, we'll all swing. She's not loyal by any stretch, but she'll plead insanity anyways. She might actually be insane too, because the Russians knew that her brain was fried. And we all saw what they did to her when they threw her into the van like a side of beef. Yeah. Melanie Snare. Well, yeah, maybe Matt Gaetz is special counsel. Like that would be something useful, but then they would say that it's not a special counsel. They'd say it's partisan. It's not independent. It's Matt Gaetz. He's a hack, whatever, He's a Republican hack. Yeah, what's up? Amber Mellenbacher says, Deluxe Night told me last night you got engaged. It's true. It's true. I'm a fiance now. Which is an interesting feeling, isn't it? Hey, congrats. Enjoy the planning process and the sweet time of being engaged. So happy for you both. We are having fun. And we're very happy and excited about it. Amber Mellenbacher, thank you for that. Glove in the air. What a beautiful thing. Savage Studios. You're right, Savage Studios. Fred George is awesome. I mean, we really all should like pay some major respects to Fred George. Ted Cruz finally has a subscriber to his podcast, which is incredible news. I don't know how many years it's taken, but it finally happened. Some of us were waiting. It's like, I don't know if it's going to happen for Ted, but it did. Fred, you're awesome. Cheers to Fred George today for subscribing to Ted Cruz's podcast. Ep Tyrannical says, I will be happy if the Republicans ditch Obamacare. I'm tired of this mandatory middleman market with no price signals. The unsubsidized cost is a mortgage payment. It is ridiculous. And there's a lot of other options out there right now, like, direct to consumer stuff. In fact, one company is called Redirect Health, and they've got some good solutions out there. You might want to check them out. No connection or any financial connection to them, but like there's private sector solutions that provide pretty good care. It's not insurance. You're just kind of paying for your medical care, which is interesting. Says Cobra is unaffordable. How long before the system collapses under its own weight? Yeah, check out Redirect Health. See if they have any options for you. I know the owner. He's a good dude, and they do good work, and might want to check them out. So anyways, some good stuff. All right, my friends, thank you so much for those donos. Thank you for bringing in new membos. Thanks for being membos. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subbing to our channel and supporting the work that we're doing here. We're going to wrap it up and say what's up to our friends in the members only after party. If you're on YouTube or on Locals, come and join us. Hey, NeuroD is sharing our link over to Rumble. NeuroD over on the X platform. Thank you, NeuroD. It's great to see you over there. And my friends, what a beautiful day it has been. And so it's Thursday. We're going to pause for the evening. Of course, we're coming back tomorrow. Before we wrap it up on the day, want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. Thank you for helping out. Carrie B, K Bean, John, Donut, Mind Me, all clipping for us. Keeping things nice and orderly around here. Neuro, D, Dog Digger, and Janek over on the Rumbles. G-Gum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda hanging out, helping out. We appreciate everybody who is here helping make this show what it is. Thank you. And we'll be back tomorrow. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers shine in the light. Watching the watchers defending what's right. Watching the watchers stay each night together and